Okay, well, welcome everyone. So I'm Lynn. We're going to talk about hypnosis. We're going to learn a little bit more on how to work with your unconscious mind, because you know you all have one, right? So let's define your unconscious mind. It's actually the part of you that you're not consciously aware of right now. So I bet you're not totally conscious of the feeling of your backside against your chair until I made you aware of it right now. Or maybe you're not really conscious of, the way your shoes fit on your toes, right? Can you feel them? Mm-hmm. But before, you weren't even consciously aware of that sensation or that feeling probably, right? So the thing about your unconscious mind is that it can actually communicate with every cell of your body. So you've all heard about the mind-body connection. And is people familiar with Deepak Chopra and any of his work? Right? So if you're familiar with that, your unconscious mind is responsible for so many processes in your body, right? So it circulates your blood. It keeps your heart beating. It actually digests your food for you. Right? So your unconscious mind does so many things for you. And everything is transported through communication, through, hello, come on in, through the neurotransmitters that are in your body. So have you ever noticed, have you ever drawn a bath or put the shower on and checked the temperature with either your hand or your foot? Have you ever done that before? Anyone here? Yeah? So next time that you do that, I want you to notice how long it takes to get the signal to your brain that it's a good temperature for you. If you touch it with your hand, right, that's closer, so it travels through all the neurotransmitters, that mind-body connection. Or if you do it with your toe, it's going to take, a lot longer for that information to get to your brain. You see what I mean? So the unconscious mind really is the key to that mind-body connection. The function and the operation of our bodies is primarily unconscious. Everything that we do comes from the unconscious mind first, but a third of a second before it gets to your conscious mind, and then you act. Okay? So hypnosis allows us to work with the mind-body connection to accomplish many things. And as early as 1860, hypnotic phenomena was produced to actually create disease and then take it away and cure it back in the 1860s. And that means that there could be tremendous healing for hypnosis and people today as well. A few other things that I found interesting is that hypnosis has actually been around for thousands of years. And there are writings in Sanskrit, evidence in India and in Egypt. The introduction of trance for healing in Europe. And back in 1500 AD, there was a medical doctor way back then called Paracelsus who did healing with magnets. And what he did was he was able to cure people of different diseases back in that time using hypnosis and these magnets. So I thought that was just kind of interesting. And you know that your unconscious mind is listening to everything that you hear. It listens to your thoughts and responds to them, to your self-talk, right? So how many of you here might be a little bit self-critical at times? Just a little, yeah. So your unconscious mind takes all of that in, right? So just remembering that. I'm just going to go. Oh, yes, I had a few housekeeping things. Welcome, everyone. We want to finish by 7:45 because they close up here around 8 o'clock, so we want to make sure that we do that. If you have any questions, feel free to kind of raise your hand and let me know if there's anything personal. You can touch base with me after. Restrooms are right outside if you need to go to the restroom. And cell phones off, just so we don't get any interruptions. So I love this quote right here, and it's by a Dr. Krasner. Hypnosis is the oldest and most natural mode of healing known to man, and is considered to be a potent and safe adjunct to medicine, as well as an effective procedure in psychotherapy. I'm in your way, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'll move that. So I just really love that quote from Dr. Krasner. So why would you even want to explore this thing called hypnosis, right? You've mentioned that you've had hypnosis before and you found it beneficial. Yourself too, you've had hypnosis and you thought, you know, it really was helpful for you, right? So who here would like to be able to maybe change habits more easily? Anybody in the room? Yeah? Who here would like to perhaps lose weight without going on a restrictive diet, without feeling deprived or hungry? Does anybody want to do that? Yeah, I hear ya. So these are just some of the things that hypnosis can help you with. What about feeling and being motivated to move your body in healthy ways, to exercise, right? Having that motivation. Hypnosis can help with that too. Hypnosis has helped many of my clients. I'll just share a couple of examples. So you might want to explore the powers of the mind if you were one of my clients, Sherry, because her son Gabriel actually fell through a piece of glass and severed his arm. And so she was able to use hypnosis with him to control the pain and help to heal the injury. And yet, you know, the doctors didn't think that he would be able to use that arm for almost a year. And because she did this hypnosis with him, the sensation of his hand returned within 3 months. And they really couldn't explain that. So that was quite interesting. If you were Mary, who suffered from carpal tunnel syndrome for 10 years, you'd want to know, because she was able to remove that pain within just one short session for her. If you were one of my other clients, Frank, actually, who conquered his fear of public speaking. And so we actually did a couple of sessions together around public speaking and a few other things. And he was able, within 2 weeks, to go out and do a big presentation for his business. He owns 2 companies. And then if you were one of my clients, Mike, who came to me for quitting smoking, he just tells me that he's able to breathe easier and is doing very well. And it's been 6 months for him now. So that's great. I do those follow-ups every 3 to 6 months to make sure that people are still ongoing and following through, right? Another lady who came to me for weight loss, and we did 4 sessions together. We did hypnosis for weight loss, as well as some coaching around healthy nutrition, motivation to exercise, and her goal was to lose 40 pounds. And she lost those 40 pounds, and it's going on 3 years now. And so 3 years later, she's been able to actually keep it off. And so the stats show that now, I don't believe we have a weight loss problem. Everybody and anybody can lose weight. Thousands of people lose weight every day. So in my opinion, we don't have a weight loss problem, we have a weight maintenance problem. Because 98% now, the stats are, of people who do lose the weight regain it within 2 years. So they regain it and they may gain more. Okay, so that is the real problem. All right, so would you like to, yes, I went through that, change habits, lose weight, end that vicious cycle of the yo-yo dieting? How many of you have been on diets, have lost the weight, were successful, only to regain it back? Anybody in the room? Yeah? Yeah. And how does that leave you feeling? Pretty frustrated? Yes, I know, been there. So going through just a few of the stats, the 2017 obesity update placed Canada amongst the most overweight countries, with 25.8% of the population aged 15 and over considered obese. So that's quite alarming. Canada's right up there. The higher than average rates are in the maritime provinces, New Brunswick being one of the highest. Obesity cost the Canadian economy somewhere between 4.6 and 7.1 billion each and every year. Those costs are split pretty evenly between direct healthcare costs and indirect costs, such as lost productivity of people unable to work, either because of disability, could be related to obesity, or because they're unable to find employment due to discrimination as well. So those are the stats that are posted. And this is very alarming. Children and youth, the prevalence of obesity tripled between 1979 and 2008. So our kids, there's more and more obesity with our kids. And what is obesity linked to? Well, we kind of all know this, right? Heart disease and stroke, high blood pressure, diabetes, gallbladder disease and gallstones, osteoarthritis, gout, breathing problems. How many people do I know now who have a sleep apnea and one of those machines, right, to help sleep? There's so many people that I know that have that, right? A person, stops breathing for short episodes during sleep. Some of them stop a lot. So, what are the options? Well, some people, the options for them is surgery. And that's what they want to do. However, there's an average wait time of 6 years. Some people have a wait time even more than that if they want to do the surgery route. And the average cost is $11,000 to $20,000. Some people have even elected to go to other countries, like down to Mexico, and they're paying out of pocket for this around, $20,000, $20,000 US to have these surgeries down in Mexico. So that's, what is happening. So some of the risks that are related to the surgeries, which is very costly as well, minor ones and major ones. So the minor ones are bleeding, swelling, pain, bruising, stomach irritation, and heartburn. There's some major risks as well: infection, ulcers, damage to organs, stomach perforation, and even death, unfortunately. So gastric band patients most commonly report the following complications. So these are more complications that have been reported by patients who have gotten the surgery. The band wearing away through the stomach wall, the band tearing, leaking, and coming apart, the outlet to the stomach being blocked, the band slipping or moving from its correct position, or the band deflating because the esophagus can become bloated or enlarged. So not something that we would want, is it? So I want to talk just a little bit more about your unconscious mind and how powerful it truly is for you. So the elements of the unconscious mind may be called your intuition, right? Your gut feeling. Has anyone ever gotten that gut feeling and just ignored it and go, damn, why didn't I listen to that gut feeling of mine? Those gut instincts, your unconscious mind, is the part of your mind that is out of your conscious awareness. So you have many processes happening in your body every second of every day that you don't even have to think about, like we mentioned before. It's, your blood being circulated, your heart pumping, your digestion happening. If you go to put your hand near a hot stove, that instinct that you pull it away very quickly, that's your unconscious mind protecting you, right? So there is a real key to the mind-body connection. But there's a couple of things that your unconscious mind can't do. And these are really, really important to know. So your unconscious mind can't tell the difference between something that's real and something that's vividly imagined. Your imagination is your unconscious mind. So if you can imagine something, then your unconscious mind doesn't know that's not real, and it's going to take you towards it. For example, something that you can start doing tonight is an exercise that I get all of my clients to do when they come to see me for weight loss, is, of course, I get them to make a huge list of what they don't want first, because they all know. They'll come in and say, well, I'll ask them why they're here. Well, Lynn, I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to be on medication. I don't want to have this low energy. I'm like, great. So you know everything that you don't want. How's that working for you? Right? Because they're getting more of it. They're attracting it to them. Their unconscious mind thinks that, doesn't process that don't either. So once they get out what they don't want, I ask them, well, if you don't want that specifically, what do you want instead? And then they wait. And they're like, And that's a real problem because they don't even know what they want, right, specifically. So then I get them to change their focus to more of what they want. And then it's to visualize it. And it's going beyond a vision board, right? So you can look at a vision board of pictures and things, and that's great. But take it a step beyond, is to visualize it, make that picture bigger, brighter, sounds, feelings, what does it feel like, and then actually float or step into the image. So tonight, a 30-second exercise, and everyone can do this right now, is just close your eyes down. I want you to see yourself in front of you. Just imagine yourself in front of you right now. And I want you to imagine yourself at your ideal weight and size. I also want you to see yourself confident, happy. What are you wearing? What are your facial expressions? Are there any sounds that you're hearing? What do you hear? Do you hear compliments? Do you hear laughter? What do you feel? What does it feel like to be at your ideal weight? What does it feel like to be confident, happy? Now, make that image bigger, brighter, life-size, right in front of you. Once you have that image exactly how you want it, I want you to float into that image and step into it and take on that new perspective. What does it feel like when you do that? When you actually float into the image and take on that perspective of being at your ideal weight, shape, size, confident, healthy. Okay, open your eyes. How'd you make out? What was that like?
I seen it, but I couldn't get into it.
It's a choice. So that's what you need to do, is to float into it, right? And some people will actually, I will actually put a circle on the ground, and I'll say, see yourself in that circle, right? And then instead of floating into the image, actually physically standing up and stepping into that image and taking on that perspective, right? So that's something that, an exercise that literally takes 30 seconds. But that's the beginning to start to retrain and train your brain and your unconscious mind that that's where I'm going. That's what I want, right? So then the unconscious mind is like, yes, that's what I want. That's where I'm going. And you're more apt to do the behaviors during the day that's going to lead you and take you to that goal, right? Does that make sense? If you do it the first thing in the morning and before bed, you do it twice a day, it's 60 seconds. That's it. So that's one thing that I'd encourage you to do. Okay, so your unconscious mind also doesn't process negations or negatives directly. So if I were to say to you right now, don't think of that yummy chocolate cake. Did anybody think of chocolate cake? Yes? Did you picture it? See it? Maybe not everybody in the room likes chocolate cake, but I said don't think of, right? But you thought of it. Or if I were to say to you, don't think of a pink elephant. Did anybody think of a pink elephant? Right? But I said don't, right? So that's your unconscious mind doesn't process that negation. So that's just to be mindful of every time that you catch yourself saying, I don't want blank, right? It's to go up, cancel, clear, delete. What do I want instead? And it's just a reminder to say, okay, here I am focusing on what I don't want. What do I want instead? All right. So I do have a free ebook on my website. Now I have to go back because I went too fast. So on the hypnosis page on my website, if anyone is interested, I do have an ebook. Sorry, what the F, is my unconscious mind. So it's just quite interesting, talks about your unconscious mind. I go through the 21 different things that your unconscious mind actually does and can do for you. So that's an ebook that you can download. All right, so before we go into what hypnosis is, I think it's really important to know and to be aware of what hypnosis is not. Okay, so hypnosis is not sleep, even though it might look like sleep. Who here has ever been to a comedy show? Some people have seen them. Have you been to a comedy show before, or have you seen any on YouTube? You can go on YouTube and look up hypnosis comedy. There's a ton of different hypnotists with different shows that they've actually filmed them, so you can watch them. And some of them are, they're very good. They're fun to watch. But hypnosis is not sleep. Even though we use the term sleep, it's not sleep. You are totally awake and aware. It's not a state of unconsciousness. It's certainly not being gullible. It's not being weak-minded. You are not being controlled by someone else. I cannot make you do something that you would not normally do. Okay? And it's not a loss of self-control. Okay? So that's what hypnosis is not. Hypnosis is an awake state. You are awake when you're in hypnosis. You're not unconscious. It is a state of relaxation. That's the whole goal, is to be completely and totally just relaxed. It's where you do use your imagination. Your imagination is your unconscious mind. So we do get you to imagine things. It is an exercise for your mind. And it helps build rapport with your unconscious mind. Okay? And it is the ultimate display of control. So, what is hypnosis specifically? It's a process of active imagination. We get you to imagine certain things. Okay? So, like right now, you could just imagine maybe floating on a cloud. Or you could imagine walking down a set of stairs if I were to ask you to. Right? I would just take you through that process. But you can imagine certain things. You can probably imagine and tell me what the color of your front door is. Can you imagine it? Mm-hmm. Yeah? What side is the handle on?
The right.
The right. See? You can see it in your mind. We make pictures in our mind all the time, and we use our imagination all the time. That same door, could you imagine what it would look like if it was hot pink with black polka dots? Right?
I wouldn't like it.
You wouldn't like it, but you can imagine it. So we can all imagine, right? So it's the process of active imagining what the hypnotist is suggesting. Active imagination is used also in Gestalt therapy. What the client imagines is always correct. Okay? When a client says, I can't, I can't means I can't do the process of not. Because when you say to yourself, I can't, it's just a limiting belief. Right? It's a belief that limits you. Because you absolutely can do anything that you choose to do. Right? So it's all in the mind. And it's all on how you language things as well. It also means, if you say that you can, it also means that you're just not following instructions. And people, smart people who want certain things, who want to be hypnotized, who want to lose weight, quit smoking, change habits, right? They will want to follow the instructions, right? Because they're just simple instructions. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in, right? Listen to the sound of my voice. That's all it is. So much fun. So, how does it work? Well, it works with the unconscious mind causing what we call trance. Just a trance state. It's almost like daydreaming. Who here daydreams? Right? Yeah. So, the intent is to work consciously with the unconscious mind. And it does cause what we call conscious-unconscious integrating, getting the conscious and the unconscious mind working together and being congruent. And it bypasses the critical faculty, and we're going to talk about what that is. So the critical faculty is the part of you that cares to distinguish between reality and fantasy. So for an example, if you're watching a Superman movie, and Superman's flying, right? Now you know that that's not real. That's kind of fantasy, right? But if you're really into the movie, right, and you're like, oh, he can lift that car and fly, you're not going to say, oh, he can't really do that. He can't fly. You don't sit there watching movies saying things like that, right? You just really just get into the movie and enjoy it, right? So distinguishing between reality and fantasy, that's the critical faculty part of you. I'm going to show you right here. So your conscious mind is here, the unconscious mind here, right? So the critical faculty, it's like there's this little layer in between that now you're able to, really critically think about things and question things. Before the age of 7, you don't have this critical faculty. You ever notice how kids are like sponges? They're going to mimic and do everything that you do, right? Until they get to a certain age when they start to develop this critical faculty, right? And once they start to develop that, then they start asking more questions and can think more for themselves and make different decisions. But when they're younger, they don't, right? So in hypnosis, what happens is that critical faculty slips out. And it's like you're that child again before the age of 7 where the suggestions made to you go directly into your conscious and your unconscious mind. Does that make sense? Yeah? Good. All right. So responsibility for change, here's the thing, is whose responsibility is it to change? Is it the hypnotist? No, the hypnotist gives directions. But whose responsibility is it to close the eyes? Right? Can I make you close your eyes? No. So if I say to you, take a deep breath in and close the eyes down now. Relax the muscles in and around the eyes to the point that they just won't work. Now you can pretend that you can't open them even though you know you can. Right? So whose responsibility is it to close the eyes? Right? So when we give directions, it's up to you to follow them so that you can do the relaxation and go into what we call a hypnotic state. Right? Hypnosis is just like daydreaming and relaxing. Does that make sense? Yeah? Good. So let's have some fun. Everybody stand up, stand up. We're going to do a little suggestibility test. And I want you to listen to the sound of my voice, and I want you to actually listen to the directions that I'm going to give you. Okay? So all I want you to do is relax your shoulders, but put both hands out like this. Okay? So I want you to take a deep breath in and relax. I don't want your shoulders tense or anything. Just relax them down. Good. Now I want you to take one hand and flip it over. So one hand's palms down, one hand's palms up. Now I want you to close your eyes. Keeping your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that on the hand that's turned up, that I'm going to place a heavy, heavy, heavy dictionary. Boom. Down it goes. And I'm placing another one. Boom. 2 dictionaries. And it's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And now, on the other hand, there's helium balloons, and it's lifting your arm up in the sky, going high, high, higher, higher, higher up in the sky. Lifting, 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 higher, lifting, 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 and boom, 3rd dictionary's coming down on that hand, and it's getting heavy, heavy. It's so heavy. And you want to listen to the directions, don't you? It's heavier and heavier and heavier. And on the other hand, more balloons, and they're lifting higher, higher, higher in the sky. Higher, higher, getting higher. Good. Open your eyes. Cool. So everyone had their hands pretty much equal when we started. So it means that even if there's a slight difference, then you are suggestible. We're going to do one more exercise. Your hands, I want you to put them together. Now I want you to take your fingers out, and I want you to stare at your fingers. Okay? So I want you to imagine, really imagine, staring at those fingers, that there's a magnet in between those fingers. And it's pulling it closer and closer and closer and tighter and tighter. And there's a vice in between them. And it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. Pulling, 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 pulling. And imagine it coming together, all the way together. Coming closer and closer and closer and closer. Imagine it coming. And it only works if you stare at your fingers. That's good. You're just like, all the way. So what did you feel? Did you feel anything? Did you feel it pulling?
Yeah.
You can feel it, can't you? As soon as you make those suggestions and you follow the directions, right? I mean, you have people in the room who'll do this. Oh, I'm not going to let they will resist to prove you wrong, right? But why would you do that if you're coming for something that you want, right? Why would you resist if you're coming for something that's positive, right? You're coming to see a hypnotist for, the weight loss or motivation to exercise or to change habits, or if it's something that you want, then you're not going to resist it. You're going to want it, right? Everybody have a seat. Good, good, good. So that was fun. So now I'm going to move in and talk specifically about the virtual gastric band hypnosis, which was a specialized course that I recently took. Sheila Granger is a hypnotist in the UK, and you can look her up. She's quite famous, actually. The virtual gastric band is a remarkable weight loss program which was pioneered by her in the UK. And so, having trained with Jason Lynette is one of her trainers, who also teaches her method of gastric band hypnosis. He and Sheila train others on the procedure. And so now it is my first time promoting it. This is a service that I'm going to be providing to offer clients in Fredericton, as well as through video feed anywhere in the world. I currently have clients that I've worked with from Vancouver, from Florida, in Ottawa. The wonderful thing about technology today is I use the Zoom video. We're face-to-face, and so location is no barrier. You don't even have to be in the same room. Okay, so that's the great thing about it. Okay, so the program uses hypnosis to condition the unconscious mind, your unconscious mind, into believing that a band has been placed around the top portion of the stomach in order to create a small stomach pouch, thus reducing the amount of food that one needs in order to feel full. So you know reality from fantasy. You know the reality is you haven't gone through surgery, right? So people will know, no, it's not to make you believe you've had surgery. So no, you haven't had surgery. But your unconscious mind believes that there's a band around the stomach and that it has shrunk so that you are fuller, faster. And we ask you, of course, to do certain things like eating mindfully and slowing down and whatnot. The great thing is because it's not a diet that you won't feel deprived, miserable, or hungry, which are a lot of the issues why people go off their diets. If they're too restrictive, it can create a cycle of disordered eating, binging. I don't know if anyone's done that. I have been there, done that, yeah, since my 20s. So restrictive dieting, over-exercising can lead to binging and other things, right? And that can be a vicious, vicious cycle for many. So UK clinical trials. This is the exciting part about it. Results based on 2 UK trials. The first trial saw 24 out of 25 candidates lose an astounding 190 pounds in 5 weeks. So these were patients that were actually waiting for bariatric surgery. So these were people who were obese, who were waiting for surgery, and they did hypnosis instead. And so they lost so much weight that they were taken off the surgery list. They didn't need surgery anymore. And so the general practitioner, the medical doctor in England, they did a second trial that was conducted with specifically 12 of his patients who had been removed from the bariatric surgery waiting list. So that was one of the trials. So again, 95% of the group experienced a positive result. So when it comes to, weight loss, there's a lot of people that can lose weight, but can they maintain it? Right? So that is the key, is not about can you restrict your food, or can you go on, for example, what's very popular right now, and it does have some merit for certain health conditions, is the ketogenic diet, right? If you've heard of keto, am I going to do the keto style? Well, I'd be careful with that to be as a lifestyle. I always ask my clients, can you see yourself eating that way in 6 months, in 12 months, in 2 years? If the answer is no, then don't start, right? You can eat keto style for a day or two within your flexibility plan, which is something that I teach, right? Flexibility dieting, I talk about carb cycling, I talk about healthy eating, but again, balancing it with life and your lifestyle, right? It's different for someone who works out versus someone who doesn't, right? So it's all what is going to be best for you and your lifestyle. And taking into account, I do admittedly work with most women that work with me are over 40. So hormonal things do come into play, right? I'm 47, and so things come into play when it comes to thyroid, when it comes to your glands, right? So estrogen and balancing things, and right, cortisol. So what is the right type of exercise to be doing, and things like that. So what is this program for this specific weight loss gastric band is that it's not a diet, and it's definitely not surgery. And a lot of people will say, well, will this work for me? Well, it's worked for literally thousands and thousands of people, because it's now being used in several different countries, the US, the UK, Canada, and many other countries, by hypnotherapists who have been trained in this specific modality. And for people, they just need to be present. They need to listen to directions and follow directions and use their imagination, because that's all they need to do. That's the great thing about it. And if you can follow directions, this will work for you. So what do you need to do? Is I always tell people is to, I always use the analogy of getting on the bus. It's basically showing up, getting a seat on the bus. I do both individual and group sessions is what I want to be offering. I want to offer both options to people, because really it doesn't make any difference which option. Both do work. It just depends on the person's preference, right? And so follow the 3-phase formula. I've developed a 3-phase formula that I'll mention in a moment. So what else do you need to do? Something that I do suggest is to buy one new item of clothing that's a couple of sizes smaller. And the key is, when you buy that, is not to put it in your closet. You want to actually look at it every day. You want to see it hanging outside so you can actually see it every day. It sends a signal to the unconscious mind that that's where you're going. If you hide it in your closet, you can't see it, right? Now, there was a gentleman, Jason told me about one of his clients. He actually, when he was younger, he used to run and used to love running. And because of his weight was such a factor on his joints and his knees and whatnot, he wasn't able to run. So he actually went out and bought a new pair of sneakers. And he set them on a table in his bedroom where he could see them every morning when he got up and before bed when he went to sleep. That was his reminder to his unconscious mind that that was his goal and that's where he was going. And so he lost the weight and he's able to use them and run again. So that's just one thing that we recommend that you do. You also will get support audio with the program. So we ask that you listen to it at least once a day. More is even better. We also ask that you eat slowly and consciously, right? You want to slow things down. That means even putting down your knife and fork in between bites. Or if you're holding a sandwich, you have to sit on your hands. Sit on your hands to slow things down. People are so busy nowadays that they eat at their computers, at their desk, in front of the TV, when they're trying to do stuff with the kids, right? So if you're able to slow things down. So these are a couple of habits I actually get my clients to do even before being introduced to this program. is asking yourself some questions. First off, am I physically hungry? Right? Is your stomach growling? Are you physically hungry? And if not, then have some water, have some tea, have a coffee, and see if you're still hungry. And if you are, it's to eat. But then I also ask them to ask another question. Is this food I'm about to eat bringing me towards my goal or pushing me away from it? And your unconscious mind is going to let you know. You don't need a nutritionist to say, yeah, don't eat that, eat this, right? Because it's not restrictive. But keeping in mind that 80% of the time it would be great to eat whole, healthy foods because you need the nourishment and the nutrients for your body, right? Especially as we age. However, life is life. And if there's a wedding, if there's a birthday, if there's a date night, once a week or whatever, and you want to go out and enjoy yourself, then that's life, and you should be able to enjoy life and the food that goes with it, right? Within reason, of course. And so for me, when I do my coaching, I always talk about strategies. What's the strategy? It's having a plan and having a strategy around it so that you can enjoy your favorite foods, right? You don't have to take them out. God, what would happen if there was no wine and chocolate night, right? So, enjoy eating smaller portions and stop eating as soon as you feel satisfied or comfortable, right? So, when you start eating and you're not really hungry anymore, but the food just doesn't taste as good as those first couple of bites, it's because you're actually satisfied. That's when you need to stop, right? Leave a little bit of food on your plate if you have to, because that will give your unconscious mind a signal that, guess what, I'm in control. The food doesn't control me, I'm in control, and I can stop whenever I want to, right? So that's a good habit to get into. And of course, drink plenty of water, 2 to 3 liters a day, depending on if you exercise or if you're heavier, you might need more. And sleep. Sleep is huge, isn't it? Yeah, me too.
I slept 3 hours last night.
Yeah. So that's not so fun, is it? So when we don't get that sleep, it also messes with our hormones. We're hungrier or hangrier, I don't know what you want to call it, right? That hangry, angry, and hungry at the same time. So that can happen. And we do ask that you exercise 30 minutes a day, at least. That's the minimum. Get out. It's getting nice outside. If you can walk outside, it's even better if you can walk uphill, right? Because you're going to work that hard even more. Go. If anyone is wanting to get into other types of exercise, taking a class, lifting weights. Weights is the best thing that women can do for themselves, right? Because it's not only for your bone density, but muscle helps to shape your body, right? So people say, oh, this is sagging, this is sagging. Do some weights, tighten up, for one. And also muscle, even though it's heavier, it's more metabolically active. So even at sleep and at rest, if you've got muscle on your body, then you're going to be burning more calories, right? So you can eat a little bit more, right? Does that make sense? Cool. Does anybody know what time we're at?
7:18.
Getting there. We're almost done. All right, so why hypnosis? So we all know what to do, don't we? We all know what to do. Who here knows what they should be doing, right? But something stops us. Something drives us to go back to those old, maybe negative patterns. Some may call it self-sabotage. Who here does that self-sabotage thing, right? Willpower is not enough for most people. Willpower is your conscious mind, right? But in hypnosis, we're working with your unconscious mind. That's why people get such great results, okay? Hypnosis can change that thinking, so the choices of doing the right thing, reaching for the healthier option, is easier, right? So hypnosis changes our automatic negative thoughts, right? Those things that are automatic, we can help to change that in hypnosis. So I'm going to talk about the weight loss grant program, okay, which I hadn't heard about until about 2 months ago. And I was like, what is this all about? So I found them online. I called them up and I talked to the program director. Their office is in Toronto, okay? And so you can, qualifications, got to qualify it here. You can get 80% reimbursed to you. The grant has been increased to $2,500. So basically, you could take a program that's worth up to $3,000 or over that, and you'll get $2,500 back. So the minimum weight to qualify is 20 pounds or 17%, whichever is greater. So you would take your weight, find out what's 17% of that. That's how much you would have to lose in order to qualify for the grant program. Okay, so if you don't have 20 pounds to lose or 17%, then you would not qualify. Okay? So, what's that?
I can loan somebody something needed.
So accredited service providers contribute to the funding pool and are typically healthcare organizations that specialize in providing safe, effective weight loss programs that have been sanctioned by a governing body of Health Canada and or have been vigorously scrutinized by our organization. So my company, I'm in their database under Peak Performance Academy, Lynn Thier, and I am an accredited service provider with them, the only one so far in New Brunswick. So that's a good thing. So any programs that you do with me that have to do with weight loss, whether it's hypnosis, whether it's a 12-week program that I also have, then you can qualify for the grant. The key is that it's an incentive to get to that goal, right? So you have to pay for services up front, but then receipts are issued at the end, and once you reach that goal that you say that you've wanted to reach, you are reimbursed then. So does anyone have questions on the weight loss grant program?
When did that come out? That's pretty...
Yeah, it's because obesity is so huge in Canada now. It's just being rolled out into the Maritimes now. And basically how it works is I, as a provider, have to pay for 10 spots for people. And then, of course, once, say, for example, you were going to work with me and apply, then I would charge you for that spot. You'd have to pay it back to me. So basically, every spot in the grant company is $200 plus HST. So I've paid for 10 spots for 10 people, right, which was $2,000 out of my pocket. So once I talk to a client and they decide, yeah, I want to apply for the grant, great, because they're automatically approved once I've screened them. I send their name off, and they also do the online application. And then they would pay me the $200 plus HST, which just reimburses them for their spot in the grant company. Yeah. So, yeah, Peak Performance Academy, Lynn Thier, and the 200 goes to the grant company. Okay, so there's 3 phases to set yourself up for success. So when it comes to the gastric band hypnotherapy, phase number 1 is the 4-week protocol, the 4 weeks of hypnotherapy with some coaching. Okay, and that's the gastric band protocol. After that 4-week period, I'm going to implement a secondary phase because I believe it's really important for people to learn about mindset, right? Mindset, thoughts, nutrition, right? Because some people don't know, right? The average person who maybe is out there who's struggling to lose weight might have, 40, 60, even 100 pounds to lose. I don't believe 4 weeks is enough, right? There needs to be a little bit more accountability if you want to get the weight off and keep it off, right? Because again, it's about keeping it off. That's what we want for success, right? So the phase 2 is an online program where I actually have one of these programs going on right now. We're in week 9. I have a couple of people from Ottawa and the rest are local from Fredericton. And we all jump on our computers every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. onto Zoom video. We have a private Facebook group. And in this group, we do everything from mindset coaching to habits, to goals, to nutrition education. Each week there's a new handout on a different topic. We do nutrition and lifestyle challenges. We also discuss all the different eating styles to educate people on them, about the low carb, the keto, the intermittent fasting, carb cycling, and flexible dieting, so that people have choice, right? Because what might work for one person might not work for somebody else, right? Someone who is very active and works out will have a different eating style and plan than, say, someone who might be 50s, 60s, who doesn't want to work out, who is in a desk job, and they're very sedentary. Does that make sense? So there's different eating styles for different people. We're all biochemically unique. We also do, and I also give meal plan options, right? I give meal plans and people can play around with them too. I do further hypnosis in this program as well on eating healthy, balancing hormones, and motivation to exercise. And we have a private Facebook group for support and more. So that 12-week group right now is for people who haven't done the gastric band hypnosis. That program there is $250 a month. Excuse me, it's a monthly payment of $250 for that program. The gastric band hypnosis, the 4-week protocol, hypnotists who have been trained in that protocol are typically charging for individual sessions, not group, $1,600 US for that program. Yes, I know. But for many, it's very well worth it. Yeah. Here locally, I'm charging $1,297 for it, for individual. The group program, the regular price is $997, and I'm charging $797 for the group program for the gastric band hypnosis portion of it. A minimum of 6 and a maximum of 12. Yeah. So I'd like to have and start a group coming up in June. Actually, I have one person already registered for the group. So phase 3, of course, is maintenance. That's the part that trips people up, isn't it? Right? They lose the weight. They think, oh, I'm good. I don't need that anymore. And then all of a sudden the weight starts to creep on and then creep on. And then all of a sudden you're looking on the scale and going, oh, shit, what have I done? Right? It's like, oh, just like that. So the key about maintenance is it's tailored to the individual, right? I want to work with you for what you need. Maybe you need to come see me bi-weekly for a short stint. Then maybe only monthly. And then maybe, you're at your goal weight, you're doing well, you might need to check in just once every 3 months for a little bit, just to make sure you're staying on track. And if something derails you, or if you go off track, right, then let's strategize. Let's do some more hypnosis around whatever it is that's tripping you up. Maybe it's another issue that's tripping you up, right? So, again, 98% of people who lose the weight gain it back within a 2-year period. So I want to keep stats for a minimum of 2 years to make sure that people lose the weight and actually keep it off. Because that's the true success, is if they keep it off. Right? Do you agree? So it's time to end that yo-yo dieting cycle. And when you change your unconscious mind, you can actually really transform and change your life in any area of life. So some bonuses, I'm including hypnosis for kicking sugar addiction and my healthy recipe book that has a lot of different options in it. And plus, if you've come to me and done a group session already, right, partake in the group session and it's been a couple of years and you want to sit in on another group a couple of years later, then you can also attend any group session in the future for free. Right, if you need to re-sit in, right? Some people like to do that a few years later. So class will be limited to 12 people. For the grant portion, 200 plus HST just holds your spot for that grant. Payment in full by first day of class, or 50% down and 50% halfway through. Credit card required for the 50% down. And to apply online to the weight loss grants, you can apply online. Rick at the Weight Loss Grant told me to, I have another number of a specific person to speak with. So if you do want to do that online application, I'll give you my email so that I can direct you to the correct person, to the 1-800 toll-free line to speak with. Okay? And that's it. Questions? Yes?
So for the group sessions, if you work shift work, then you're not available with it on a designated Wednesday nights. I can never
Right.
do schedule because I rotate. I'm doing 12-hour days and nights and what's on.
So, yeah, so
So
you're,
I can never pin down.
One
I'll
time.
do 1 week, won't do the next week.
right. Yeah,
So I
that can be a challenge.
Yeah. Nurses.
Yeah,
Or, I'm not sure.
yeah. Yeah, I know, I used to work shift work, not fun.
Yeah, so for me, that's always.
That's always the challenge when it comes to
always a
group
challenge,
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there's a couple of people that do work different shifts that are in my 12-week program. What's great about that, if there is a couple that they do miss, we record all of them and we upload the recordings to the private Facebook group for stuff that we have done, right? Yeah, so unless you have your own group of 6 that you can coordinate, okay, this week we're doing it this time, coordinate with me. The next week we're doing it at this time, on this day, on all of our off days. As long as there's once a week, every week, right? So if you've got 6 people that are, say, nurses or other people that want to do it, then I'm sure there's a way to work it out. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot of money and exercise classes that are scheduled.
Yes.
I sign up for Tuesday and Thursday.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
stuff happens at work. I have to work and those, so.
Yeah.